the CHCH television system, this is Newsroom, late edition.
I'm Dan McLean. Good evening, everyone. There is poison leaking into the Great Lakes, and some of it is coming from our own backyard. A secret government report says that toxic chemicals are spilling out of garbage treatment plants in Hamilton and Burlington and into Lake Ontario. Bob Ireland has more.
$250,000 study which was done a year ago and which the Ministry of the Environment refuses to release says 272 organic chemicals, some cancer-causing, are leaking from municipal sewage treatment plants into the Great Lakes system. 5 of the 19 chemicals singled out by the provincial study pose a possible long-term threat to fish, birds, and animal life as well as to human food supplies. 2 plants mentioned in the study are Hamilton Wentworth's Woodward Avenue plant and the Halton Water Control Pollution Plant in Burlington. Chairman of Halton's Public Works Committee, Anne Mulvale, says she was not aware of the study, but is concerned about it.
More than 3/4 of our people in Halton, and myself and my family, draw the drinking water from that lake. We clearly have a vested interest in improving the treatment facilities and maintaining water quality for our people.
Hamilton Wentworth Region's Environmental Operating Engineer, Romeo Palambella, says the Woodward Avenue plant discharges its effluent into the Windermere Basin, and although it eventually gets into Lake Ontario, it is a long way from the region's drinking water intake, which is a mile out into the lake. Chairman of the region's Engineering Services Committee, John Prentice, does not think the leaking of toxic waste is something to get in a panic over.
We're concerned about it, but the quantities that are so minute at the present time that are getting into the lake that we can't detect them.
So you're not worried at this point then about any danger to drinking water from these toxic chemicals that might be leaking into the lake?
Well, we have to determine to ourselves is do we wish to treat for typhoid fever, these type of problems, or do we wish to not treat for those and look for some exotic type of chemical that might give 1 in a million cancer.
The secret provincial government study and its relation to the Woodward Avenue sewage treatment plant will be the subject of what could be a very long debate at next Tuesday's meeting of the Hamilton Wentworth Region's Engineering Services Committee. In Hamilton, Bob Ireland, Newsroom, late edition.
Just down the peninsula, NDP leader Bob Rae was lashing the provincial government for its environmental record. Rae had a look at a few toxic waste dumps in New York State today and declared that Ontario is headed in the same direction unless the government steps up its environmental programs.
New Democratic Party leader Bob Rae was touring other sources of Great Lakes pollution in New York this morning when he was asked about the state of affairs at 9 sewage treatment plants in Ontario. Rae says the condition of the plants proves that the Ontario government is following closely in the footsteps of the Americans.
The Ministry of the Environment has cut back its environmental budget by 25% in the last 4 years. What we have in Ontario is Reaganism by stealth. We have a government that is committed to cutbacks, that carries them out in the environment, and yet doesn't want to do it publicly. And it is very, very clear that we are now paying the price for that boneheaded attitude to public expenditure and that boneheaded attitude to environmental protection.
Rae has visited the dump sites on the U.S. side 3 times in the last few years, and each time he calls for the Ontario government to take legal action against U.S. companies and governments that allow toxic goop to flow into the Niagara River. Rae also toured the Niagara Falls, Ontario water treatment plant to again point out the inefficiency of the Environment Ministry. 2 years ago, the Ontario government agreed to pour $3 million into this water treatment plant. A carbon filtration system was to be installed on an experimental basis to help eliminate some of the toxic organic chemicals being found in the Niagara River and Lake Ontario. But the system is still not in place, and Rae says 2 years is too long for such an important experiment. Rae says based on the Conservatives' environmental record alone, they deserve to be turfed out of office. In Niagara Falls, Jennifer Mossop, Newsroom, late edition.
Liberal leader David Peterson promised $12 million for 10,000 new daycare spaces in Ontario while campaigning in Toronto